Hey, it's been a while. I wasn't actually sure if I should make this video because I've made one or two videos before talking about male characters, but this is something that I've grown to become very passionate about, and I feel like if there's one point in time where we should be talking about male characters, it's right now, because right now they are working on updating our characters. Whenever the topic of male characters is discussed, I see the same kind of arguments repeating themselves in the comment sections. But over time, I've come to realize that none of these arguments actually hold up. And I have yet to see an argument that will actually convince me that we shouldn't have male characters in the game. Because as of now, there is every reason to include them. And I know that a lot of the people watching will probably be sitting there with a lot of arguments in their minds to why they wouldn't want SSO to include male characters. So I want to take this opportunity to counter every single argument that I've heard against male characters, because I don't think any of them hold up. So probably the most commonly repeated argument that I've heard that even SSO use themselves is that the story is about a girl and the sisterhood of the Soul Riders, and therefore the main character must be a girl. Originally, this argument could be true, because originally the story was very much about a girl and her journey to become the 5th Soul Rider. However, since the beginning of the game, the story has changed a lot, like I've repeated before, and part of the story that has changed is the gender narrative. First of all, our character now uses they/them pronouns as a default instead of she/her. And in the opening credits, which is supposed to kick off the story and give the player an insight to what the story is about, instead of "Are you that girl?" it now says "What will you make of your stay here?" So according to the story narrative, this story is no longer about a girl, but just a person, a young person who has arrived in Jorvik and is now gonna become the 5th Soul Rider. If the gender of our character as the 5th Soul Rider is as crucial as they want it to seem like, then why are they changing the gender narrative? And additionally, the story itself opens up for a change in gender. Concord being reincarnated as a mare instead of the traditional stallion is proof that the legacy of the Soul Riders goes beyond gender. According to the story, it's not the gender that matters, but the soul. So according to the legacy, the Soul Riders could also technically be reborn as a male, even though that is less common. When 1 out of the 4 guardian horses are born as a mare instead of the traditional stallion, you would think that at least a couple of the 20 million registered players would be male. They are literally changing the story so that it fits any gender. So when they're first changing the story, why not include every gender? So in short, the story argument does not hold up. Take that from a theorist who gave up on the story because it kept changing. Another very common argument is that a lot of games don't have girl options, and that finally we have a game for only girls. This is simply not true. When people bring up examples of such games where you can only play as a male character, people bring up games like Red Dead Redemption 2, where you play as a preset character who you cannot change in any way, shape, or form. And just like how you have to play as a male in that game, you also have to play as Lara Croft, a female, in Tomb Raider. There are countless of examples of games like this, story-driven games where you have to play as a set character who's either male or female. The difference with SSO is that this is an MMORPG. You customize your characters, you give it a name, and it's supposed to represent you. In the year of 2023, the gaming industry is very inclusive, and there are barely any MMORPG games out there who don't allow you to customize your gender. But Star Stable Online is one of the few, and that is the biggest horse game in the world. So for all the people who do use this argument, I want you to type down a list of games, MMORPGs, where you can customize your character, give it a name, but you cannot choose the gender, you can only play as a male. Because I will bet you that there are very, very few of those out there. And even if there are a couple of games out there who don't allow you to play as a girl in 2023, you can't fight sexism with sexism. That is hopeless. The only thing that SSO will get out of this with this argument is that the gender gap becomes bigger and it creates more hate and more sexism. So if this is the argument, then what are they doing? Which brings me to another argument, which is that if they don't want to play as a girl, they can go play another game. Well, there is no other game. Star Stable Online is currently the biggest open world horse game in the world. And even if they go on to try and find another game, they will find that a lot of them don't actually allow male options. The original Star Stable games didn't allow male options. The open world Springdale games didn't allow male options. And even story-based horse games are mostly female-based. In the horse gaming genre, males are the minority. Males are the ones who need to get more representation in this genre. So excluding male players from the horse gaming genre is pointless because they are already excluded. Another argument is that this game is a safe space for girls and that they want to prevent romantic roleplays. Now, here's the thing, and this may come as a shock to some people, but guys are not automatically predatory. I know, crazy, right? And keeping them out to keep girls safe and create a safe space for girls is only enforcing toxic stereotypes about guys. And newsflash, boys are already playing the game. The only difference is that you can't automatically tell that they're boys because they have to play as girls. If you're worried about predatory situations, then that is even more scary, because girls online will have this false belief that everyone playing this game is girls their age. That's not true. And as for the romantic roleplays, those are already happening. And the last argument I want to be bringing up is that it's a lot of work for the team and they should prioritize other things. The story is already changed to fit any narrative, so they don't need to do anything about that. And they are already updating the characters, so they are already spending a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of work on that. And when they are spending all this time and resources on implementing better, more diverse, and inclusive characters, then they should be inclusive. They can't go around and claim that they are very inclusive and diverse when they refuse to include boys in their game. This character update is a golden opportunity to actually include guys in the game and make them feel wanted and welcomed in this world that they claim is so inclusive. I think that the real reason why there's no male characters is that when they first made this game 12 years ago, they used what they had from the original games without bothering to add another player character. And eventually, this lack of a male character turned into a political statement. And sure, this is far from the only place where they're being political. People have long frowned upon how they're milking PR from Pride events, changing things for brownie points, and even starting their own political campaigns. Just a quick side note here while I'm editing, because I realize what I just said can be misunderstood. The reason I'm mentioning these things is not because I'm against Pride, LGBT rights, or anything of the sort, but because I think it's important to mention that other political aspects do exist within the game and its marketing. Nowadays, many companies piggyback onto political events and causes for the sole purpose of promoting themselves and pandering to the masses. And I really do get that vibe from SSO, especially as of recent years. Including LGBT characters and diversity of all kinds should, in my opinion, be a matter of course, as that's a reflection of real life. But when the game is marketed to look like a political movement and it overshadows the actual contents of the game, that's when it becomes an issue. But out of all their political moves and campaigns, this condescending attitude that they have towards men, disregardment of the male player base, and pretty much marketing their game as a feminist statement above all, is personally the part that throws me off the most. All this talk about how we live in a male-dominant world and that this game takes girls' side, promoting the game as a game for girls, never having any guys at all in their advertisements or campaigns or anything, and generally how they respond to male concerns in this game, just really speaks volumes to how politically driven this game is. It's especially clear with the way that they're more than willing to adapt their game and narrative to fit a trans and non-binary audience, while at the same time refusing to adapt anything at all for their male audience. Because this has nothing to do with the story and everything to do with politics. I stopped playing SSO over a year ago now, and one of the things that I really don't miss is how insanely politically driven this game is. They seem to forget that this game is now aimed towards kids, and therefore shouldn't be littered in politics. They keep bragging about how inclusive and diverse this world is and how everyone's welcomed, everyone's welcome to be themselves. But truth be told, everyone who's not inside this bubble of political opinions that they hold and stand for, they are not welcome in this world. Now, of course, a lot of people who do play SSO will agree with these opinions and say that, well, these are positive opinions and people are actually welcome here, etc., etc. But not necessarily. The other day, I watched a video by Dennis Wistorm, who talked about all the kinds of hate he will get. His inbox will be littered with people who question his sexuality, who question his intentions with playing the game. People telling him he shouldn't be playing the game because he's a guy. That something is somehow wrong with him for being a guy who wants to play a horse game. These are not positive opinions. This is just pure, uncalled for hatred. Dennis is only one of many guys who play this game and who probably face harassment and hate every day simply for playing the game. Many content creators have spoken up about how toxic this community is. Wanting to include guys seems to be a very controversial opinion within the SSO community, and I find that pretty outrageous, to be honest. The bottom line is that I really don't agree with SSO's gender views because I personally find them toxic. A kid's game should not be this political. And frankly, all their talk about inclusivity, diversity, welcoming everyone with open arms and letting everyone be exactly who they want to be, that's just a lie. Because if you want to be a guy, you are not allowed to be a guy. Neither in the game, nor in the community. You're just not allowed to be a guy, because if you are, you're gonna face a lot of hate and harassment. Within this community, people are led to believe that boys aren't and shouldn't be playing this game because this is a game for girls. Maybe Star Stable just doesn't want to add male characters. Maybe they want to stick to their niche of being a game for girls. But even if that's the case, I think they should be thinking more about how they market their game and what kind of messages they are sending to their players. Because there is a huge stigma surrounding boys who are into horses. And this is not making it better. This game is currently being presented to us as some kind of power move for girls, when in reality, the real people who need empowerment in the horse gaming genre are boys. Because at the end of the day, horses is for everyone, and therefore everyone should feel welcomed.